Event with the Chris and Sandy Show, where you get up close and personal with some amazing guests throughout the entertainment industry. And today, like I say on every episode, we got a great one for you. Who do we have?
We have Michelle Danner. She is a performer, teacher, storyteller, entrepreneur, and expert. The legendary acting teacher and founder of the Creative Center for the Arts and the Los Angeles Acting Conservatory. She is also well established as a successful feature film director. Her latest film, Bad Impulse, is a psychological thriller about family secrets and modern technology. And her upcoming film, The Runner, is an action thriller and true life coming of age story about a troubled teenager forced to go undercover to expose a drug kingpin. Her list of acting students has included Christian Slater, Selma Hayek, Gerard Butler, Seth MacFarlane, Penelope Cruz, Chris Rock, Gabrielle Union, and Zoe Deschanel, among many more.
And we're excited to have her on the show. So welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Nice to meet you. We're doing great.
Good. So I always like to start the show out kind of same way. Last 2 years have been rough for a lot of people, but especially in entertainment.
Oh, yes, it has.
How has COVID affected what you do? And what have you done to kind of maneuver through this time period?
Well, for me, I had just wrapped on principal photography a couple of years ago. Called Runner, this movie that's behind me.
Yeah.
And so I had the luxury of editing in a very relaxed way. So for me, it was great because I didn't feel pressure. And I'm in pre-production for another movie right now, and I'm feeling the pressure. And what I'm trying to, in every stage of preparing to make a movie, is to work on feeling, there's pressure, but not letting it affect me so much. So I loved this pause that we had personally, not for the rest of the country and not for the people that, suffered, obviously. But for me, I found that my adrenaline was pumping less, and I found a more released way of doing the work, which really helped me, I think, to do the best work that I could. So I was very, very busy. I mean, having said and done, I've been joking that one of the things I've been wanting to do was to bake bread and puzzles. And that's still on my list. I got all these puzzles here in my study, and I've got the dough to make the bread in the kitchen, but I haven't gotten to it yet. And I have a feeling I'm going to be getting to it anytime soon. But, when people say they've been baking the bread and reorganizing their garage, and God, I was like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, that's like for us. We launched this show January of 2020, so a couple months before COVID, and our original plan was maybe 100 interviews first year. We thought it'd be great if we could do that. Be a great foundation, and then COVID happens, and we're sitting there watching everything get shut down. I told Sandy, I was like, we can't change this, but people like you're going to need a place to talk, and we're going to give that to them. So we stepped it up, and that first year we ended up doing over 300 interviews, and we're over 500 now.
That's great. You used your time productively as well.
We did what we could. We tried to
make
with a 10-year-old and a 3-year-old, which of course at that time was 8 and 1. We tried our best to kind of keep everything as normal for them as possible.
We did.
We live in Georgia, so Georgia really was normal after the first 2 months.
That's right.
True. So, a lot of people would ask, when did you know you wanted to be in entertainment? But I always like to go deeper than that. When did it actually click for you that the entertainment world could be a career move for you?
It's hard to say, only because I was just very passionate and very driven throughout my childhood and my teenage years. I was always, the good thing about my parents is that they really gave me a lot of freedom to discover what I wanted to do. But I was always attracted to reading. I was attracted to plays. I was attracted to performing. I was attracted to writing. So I would watch a lot of movies. I would go to the theater all the time. And when we moved back to New York, I would go to the theater nonstop. I was just always, loved the arts. So I think it's always been ingrained in me. And, and it is to this day. I did suffer in the last few years not being able to go to the theater.
Yes.
Here in LA, we had a performance of a wonderful play with Bryan Cranston.
Oh,
And
wow.
I went. I was sitting in the first row with my mask, and I thought to myself, it's going to be hard for 2 hours, not to be able to breathe too well. But I forgot that I had a mask on because it was so good, and that's
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
of theater, and certainly the power of the extraordinary actor that Bryan Cranston is. He was just, to see him up close like that and to see his work. So I've always lost myself in, in the arts and performing, reading. I'm just all in, fascinated with it.
I remember when COVID first happened, all that, and they kept talking about there'll never be concerts again, there'll never be gatherings again,
Yeah.
and we were like, okay, now what in the world? Because again, I can't imagine our country without gatherings.
Yes.
That's been difficult. I usually I get these text messages. I usually do poker nights where I cook dinner and we play poker, and we haven't done that. We haven't done that in years. I haven't gone to a casino to play poker in years.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
Hopefully.
Looks like we're at the other end of it finally. Looks
Yes,
like. Right? At this
hopefully.
point, it looks
We
like.
hope so.
Well, I hope so, because in 5.5 weeks I'm on set shooting a movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What movie are you shooting?
I'm shooting a great movie called Miranda's Victim, written by George Culver, and it's about the Miranda story. It's the Miranda rights, how those came about.
Wow.
It's an incredibly turning point in our country, and it changed the law in America.
Right.
So I don't think people know, when people read you the Miranda rights, you have the right to remain silent.
Yes.
Everything that goes after that. People don't know what the story is.
Oh, wow.
Because it's never.
I don't.
We would, that would be interesting to watch.
This is the true story. We get the life rights, the true story of the woman that it happened to. So it's told from her perspective. And she kept it a secret, even from her family, for 60 years. And finally, she felt, she wanted to tell the story. And she did. And that's the movie that we're making. Donald Sutherland is going to play one of the judges.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be a wonderful cast. And so I'm really, really excited.
Wow, I love that. So as you know, a lot of people, they see the glory and being an entertainer and all that, but they don't see the grind, the sacrifice, the tears, the struggles. And I always like to talk about that side of it a little bit. And you kind of come at it from multiple angles, from being a performer, but also helping performers and all that. So you've got a little different perspective than a lot of people on this. So take a few moments and just tell us about some of the sacrifices you've had to make through your career to get to where you are today.
That's interesting. Nobody's ever asked me that. There's been some sacrifices. I don't know. I feel like I focus more on trying to organize a very creative life. I got a couple of kids like you do, and those are my priority, and I bring them on. So I may have to make a lot of actors that I work with, especially when they have young kids, they get frustrated because their kids are at home and they're missing time with their kids. So I've never had that problem because I've always brought my kids with me on set. They've always been on set. They've been backstage of a theater. They've been, they traveled with me all over the world, as I've been invited all over the world to teach my master class. And so I've always made them part of what I've done. Mainly also because I'm very hands-on with my kids. And although I've had, nannies throughout the years and people helping me, but I'm really, really hands-on. And so they come with me. We're very close. They're part of what I do. As a matter of fact, my son studies theater and film at USC. And he's 19 and he's going to be by my side. He's going to be a mini me when I'm on set. He's already, he's just great. We're watching all the trial, the big courtroom. Yesterday, we watched Witness for the prosecution with Marlene Dietrich, who my father, who was a producer, worked with, and Tyrone Power, and, Anatomy of a Murder. We watched To Kill a Mockingbird. So we're watching all the classics.
Oh, yes.
And the movies that are more, Injustice for All and The Verdict and all those movies and Trial of the Chicago 7. So he's immersing himself with me.
What's he think about the difference between the older movies to the new movies now?
He loves the older movies. He loves how the story is told. He loves it. And we analyzed it. Yesterday we talked about the scope, the grandeur of witness for the prosecution, and also the intimacy. And of course, William Wyler was the director, an extraordinary director, and Charles Laughton was, what can we say? So we analyze it. We talk about it after every movie. We go in depth. And
Wow.
I mean, this is something that I didn't do, when I was 19 or when I was 25. I didn't go as in depth. And my son does. And I took a page off his book, and he really taught me to go more in depth. And it's helpful, especially at this stage that I'm in, this pre-production where I'm researching everything.
Wow. So what have you learned from your son that's helped you in your career?
He watches 4 movies a day. He's so driven. He has to write. I mean, he does really well at USC. He's an A student. But he really is, he's all in. And, not that I wasn't all in, but there's different definitions of being all in, of being completely immersed. And I've talked about, this bubble of concentration that you put around you so that you don't get distracted by little things that take you away from the main, the main purpose. So I see that when he's concentrated, he's very concentrated.
Wow.
Which is great. And he's passionate. And I mean, I've always been passionate. He'll tell you that he got it from me. But
So what's been a big lesson that you've learned from your students?
Well, I learn from every student that I work with, whether I do a private coaching or I do a class or I do a conversation. I learn from every interaction, from every student. They're like sponges. They want to learn. They want to succeed. They want to break through, to find a way to break the ice. And, I, of course, try and impart the knowledge that I have, that I've accumulated throughout the years, the lessons that I've learned. But every story that is shared with me, every moment of resilience that they share with me, or overcoming adversity, teaches me something.
Being that one of your past students was Chris Rock, I guess the recent thing was like, whoa, blown away. You must have taught him well for him to stay calm.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I taught him that. If anything, he taught me. But I did work with Chris intensively on a movie.
Oh, wow.
Many hours. And then he, I have it on my list, but now I'm going to wait a little bit. I've had it on my list to write to him, because what he gave me, talk about learning from your students. He gave me advice on how to raise children.
Oh, wow.
He said to me that, his parents gave him the freedom to figure out what he wanted to do, and they gave him the time to do that. And put the pressure on him. And I remember seeing a long time ago a documentary called The Race to Nowhere, and really agreeing with that philosophy of bringing up, children. That it's like when you drive, I always say the same thing, when you're driving down the street and inevitably somebody will look at you and honk you and pass you and muscularize and just, you pissed them off because you went too slow. And then 5 minutes later, you're at the light and you're both at the light. And so that person got angry, and that person muscularized, and that person forced you to go fast. And you got there at the same time. And so I think that's important. I want my children to enjoy their childhood as much as possible. I don't want them to feel pressure. There'll be plenty time enough. There'll be plenty of time later in life, when you do projects and stuff, that you'll feel the pressure. It's like, don't just have a great childhood and try and take the time to figure out. I've told my son, you take as long as you figure out what you want to do. The one thing I've always wanted to do and I did not do, and I said that to him, he knows that, I had wanted to give him a wall in his bedroom, like a whole entire wall, where he would paint whatever he wanted.
Oh, that's a great idea.
I did it in his imagination time and time again. But I just give him that absolute freedom to express himself. And I remember that when he was 2 years old and I was touring schools around here, all the schools, figuring out what preschool he was going to go to, what elementary school he was going to go to. I remember just I wanted to find a school and principles of education that would not squash his creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For him,
Important.
my other
That is
kid is a major athlete. He's just an athlete. He's in his body, and he's less passionate about arts. However, he's a great writer. So every kid is different, as you know, because you've got to
Yeah.
come to them, and
Right.
they're all, it's different fits for different things. But anyway, to just go back to Chris Rock, who handled beautifully, obviously, what happened to him a couple of weeks ago at the Oscars. I'm
Mhm.
very grateful to him for having handed me down a great lesson about parenting.
Wow,
Mhm.
I
Oh,
love that
that's
because that's
amazing.
how we want to
Mhm.
raise our kids.
It is.
I've got
Yes.
friends of mine who are say 15, 20 years in their careers, and they're miserable. And you sit down and talk to them, and you're like, yeah, how can you be miserable? You got this great lifestyle, you got this great family, you got this amazing career, and they're like, well, the career's the problem. And you're like, what do you mean the career's the problem? You went to 6 years of college or whatever it was. And they're like, well, I didn't want to do this. My parents, my guidance counselor, my friends all said what I wanted to do couldn't work. And they all said, this is where the money's at. So they went there and now they're completely miserable. And I don't want, I've never wanted to be controlled. I want to be able to create my own way and all that. And I want our kids to do the same thing.
Mhm.
I absolutely agree with that. Yes.
Because I think it's so important because you could, I've watched parents say, no, you got to be a doctor. Or we're all doctors in this family and you got to be a doctor. And they just take whatever creativity that God may have give them right out from them. And it's sad to see because they would, they're in a possession, a career they're not passionate about now. And who knows what they could have been if they'd have just went the other route.
Exactly. That's right. You have to let your children discover what they want to do with their lives. So, because that is really the prerequisite, that's the foundation of having a happy life.
It
Mhm.
is. Absolutely.
I love that. So as you know, a lot of people they see you, but they don't see the teams behind the actors and all the people in entertainment and all that.
Mhm.
But in our opinion, teams never get the love they
They
deserve.
don't.
On our show,
They're
they
so
get
important.
love. So take a few moments and just tell us about the team that helps you be who you are.
Okay, well, first I have to go to my sisters. I work with my sisters.
Oh,
I remember that was a dream of my dad's.
Wow.
wow.
He passed away a few months before I gave birth to my first son. And, one of his dreams was that his daughters should work together.
Oh wow.
A
Oh,
few
yeah.
minutes before he passed, I said to him, oh, and by the way, I just want to tell you that I will make your dream come through. We already had started to work together anyway. We
Mhm.
always work together. We're very close sisters. I said, we will continue, I said, to work together. I promise you that. And so I have, one of my sisters runs the acting schools that we have.
Oh wow.
My other sister is a producer on all the movies that I've done. She's produced them. My best friend, Brian, has also been a producer. We've worked together for, oh God, I don't even want to tell you, 30 years because that really ages. And I have very much longevity. I have my nanny housekeeper, has been with me for 22 years. I remember wanting to meet somebody before I gave birth. I said, I'm going to work. I'm not going to stop working because I have children. So I want to meet somebody a couple of years ahead of time that I feel that I could trust.
Yeah.
And, and I did. And she turned out to work out with her. She was great.
Oh, wow.
And she's here to stay. And with her, I have another nanny that with the same 22 years. She's the one that helped me at night, hold the babies while I was getting some sleep. So, from my personal life to a wonderful right hand, assistant co-producer that I have, that's been with me for 8 years. So, and I've worked with Lori for many years, who you've dealt with, my publicist. So I have a lot of people in place and I have a lot of longevity with them. So they span, many, many years, if not decades.
Wow.
And, we have a shorthand with each other. My director of photography for this next movie is the same director of photography that I used for this movie behind me, The Runner. I like working with the same people. I like having relationships. I like trusting people,
Mhm.
loyal. When somebody is loyal and you trust them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, it's very collaborative. It's a collective. We work well together, and it's important to create that kind of community around you.
Yeah.
I feel very fortunate. My God, I feel so lucky. I mean, I'm going to go now and shoot for 30 days this big movie. This is an important story. It's a big movie on the East Coast in New Jersey. And
wow.
here I have my sisters, and I have my niece, and I have my children, and I have my long-term collaborators that are all going to be there with me. So
Mhm.
how lucky is that? I'm
Wow.
enormously grateful.
Love that. Speaking
Yeah.
of team members, we have a third co-host, our
Yes, we
10-year-old
do.
that we allow come ask a couple
Christopher.
questions. And he's actually launching his own little podcast probably the fall of this year.
Yes, later this year.
Yes.
I'll go get him.
We like you, we keep it in the family.
Yeah, that's great. I love it.
And we've got a 3-year-old that when she gets older, she'll be plugged into the show because we do keep it a family affair. It's the only way to be.
Great. I love that.
So while we're waiting for them, what's kind of next for you?
Well, I'm in this thing, the Miranda Victim, the pre-production. After that, I do have a couple of other movies that I'm prepping, that I'm not prepping for, that I will be doing. So, you're always, when you're a director, when you're a storyteller, you're always working on different stories. You always have different stories. And it's always the one that goes is the one, the logistically, the one that's got the financing ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that moves forward faster. So here I am with this one, but I have two other movies that I'm absolutely passionate about. So that'll be, later in the year, next year. Yeah.
That is awesome.
Hi, how are you?
So what's your favorite food?
What is what?
What's your favorite food?
Favorite food?
Oh, my favorite food. My favorite food is, I think what we ordered last night is probably pizza. Not good for my waist, but my favorite food.
Because what's yours?
My favorite food's pizza.
So there we have something in common. What's your name?
Christopher.
Christopher, hi. And how old are you?
I'm 10.
10. Great. Nice to meet you.
Okay, so what's your favorite TV show and movie?
Oh God, I have so many. So many, but there's some that I should not mention because you're not old enough to see them. And if I see my son, for instance, my 12-year-old wanted to see The 100, the show called The 100, but I had to cover his eyes in many places that were not appropriate, that were violent. But I'm very eclectic in my taste, meaning I really like all kinds of different things because I learn from everything. Right now I'm watching old movies for this courtroom movie I'm about to shoot. But I'm trying to think of stuff that I would have watched that you would have liked. Well, I've gone to see all the Marvel movies, right? What are your favorite movies? Or shows?
What are you?
Oh, well, my favorite show is SpongeBob, and my favorite movie is The Minions.
Okay. I haven't seen that one, but I've seen a lot of the Marvel and all of that universe. I've seen a lot of it, and my dance card is very filled because with every member of my family, there's shows that we're watching together, and everybody fights and goes, "Oh, we're watching this tonight, or we're watching that tonight." So I don't know if you have the same thing. If there's shows that you watch with your mom, with your dad.
We let Caitlin probably is the one that is the boss of everything. She's the 3-year-old. She always wants to watch the Minions, so we watch it like all day long. And I probably could tell you every part that's coming up in that.
Well, I've watched my share of SpongeBob's and Caillou, and back in the day, I don't know if that's happening now. Is Blue's Clues.
I was so glad when he grew out of Caillou.
Blue's Clues is a big one.
We had Josh come on the show about a year ago.
Yeah.
Oh, he's Blue's Clues.
Yeah, he was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was fun for the kids. But I've watched them all, and then when they grew up a little older, I would take them to New York and take them to see Broadway shows. I mean, there was that SpongeBob musical, or the School of Rock show.
Mm-hmm.
Basically all of them, Aladdin and all the Disney stuff, and we've seen it all. But it's fun. It's fun now. Of course, they're watching stuff that is a little bit more grown up.
Exactly.
Bye. Thanks.
Nice to meet you. Bye.
He's been on almost every episode, and again, we keep it family affair. We love doing this, and we don't know where his future will be, but you know what? Maybe with our connections now with the show, who knows? The future looks bright for him.
Yes.
Great. That's so great. I love it.
So, since you deal with a lot of actors and all, I usually ask what people would like to co-star with, but I'm going to flip the script a little bit on this. What two actors would you love to see in a movie together?
Oh, wow. Well, I don't know. There's been so many combinations, but, that's a difficult question. There's so many, because I'm in the middle of casting right now, I am constantly watching actors' works. I mean, constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not necessarily a given that two actors that work together would have a certain chemistry together. You have to take a risk. Sometimes when actors don't like each other, they happen to have a combustible chemistry.
Oh, yes.
People have been known to, not always, but people have been known to, be married or together as a couple and work together, and that fizzle is out there. It doesn't work. It's if everybody had the formula on what create chemistry between, two actors, or what would
You'd be rich if you had that formula.
Well, if everybody had the formula to go, for sure, we'll make a great movie because we have this and this and this, and all of these ingredients are perfect. But that's the crapshoot of it all, right? Is that you can have a lot of great ingredients, and sometimes it's a little lackluster, and sometimes you have things that go awry, and it comes out great. So it's hard to have. There's no formula to this, right?
Exactly.
That's right.
So tell us about your creative Center for the Arts that you run.
Yes. Well, obviously in the last few years, we, because here in California, things have been shut down and have reopened. And now, of course, we're talking about not shutting down again, but, another variant. But people have reopened, and we, I have two acting schools, the Los Angeles Acting Conservatory, the Michel Danner Acting Studio, and a Center for the Arts where we do an annual film festival. We mount plays. We do many events, readings, and it's a pretty wonderful energy, creative energy. I am just very excited to have live arts come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's an important part of us just living, be able to go and watch somebody live. Though I love these Zooms, I personally think we can get a lot accomplished through Zoom. And so I've done play readings through Zooms and readings of screenplay through Zooms. And, there's a lot of things, but you can't, equate it to what it's like to be live, obviously.
Exactly. I love that. So where do you want to be in the next 5 years?
I think to continue to do what I'm doing, I have about, like I said, 3-4 movies that are on my vision board that I'd like to, make happen. I'll continue to teach always and to coach. And then, because my 19-year-old, he's a storyteller at heart. I want to facilitate, him getting his dreams. So I see myself being on set, helping him, to make his movies. That's what I think, continuing to be with my family, to grow with my family. The good news is, I don't see like, the next 5 years I have to accomplish this much, because I think that if I never accomplished one more thing for the rest of my life, I would actually, I'm okay. I've done it. So I don't have the pressure of having to accomplish anything, just to continue living and finding, joy in the creativity of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's look, say 15 years down the road, and you're a success on a grand scale, whatever that looks like for you, you're at the top. What do you hope you never forget?
It's so funny that you say that, because me and my son Nicholas were watching late at night at 1:00 in the morning a few months ago on Sundance, the Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz documentary that's now on Amazon. We had watched the movie directed by Aaron Sorkin, and then we watched this documentary. And 3/4 in, my son stopped and he said, he had tears in his eyes. And he said to me, please make sure that I'm never like that. And what he meant by that is losing track of the joy, and which not Lucille Ball, because I think Lucille Ball, we had that gratefulness. It was more Desi Arnaz that nothing was ever going to fill the wound that he had, from his childhood, from Cuba, from having to leave, from his family. Nothing was ever going to be good enough. And he was so successful and he created such an empire. But none of it filled it. None of it filled the hole.
Yes.
And I think that my son understood that there's potentially a hole that you try to fill. And it's like Citizen Kane, and nothing is ever, good enough, but only to realize at the end of the day that it's Rosebud, that you don't have to fill anything. So, I just, want to continue to be surrounded by, love and not feel like we have to be somewhere to be somebody, because we don't. It really doesn't matter. I mean, none of it really, really matters as long as, we find ways to fulfill ourselves creatively.
Yes. What are some sources of inspiration for you?
I read a lot. I try. I mean, one of my greatest frustrations, I always say, is I don't have time to read as much as I'd like to read.
Yeah.
I have to do it early in the morning because then if I do it late at night, I'm tired. So then at that point, I watch a lot of content, which is helpful in itself. So, and then my children are my biggest source of inspirations. You ask me, what did I learn from my students? What do I learn from my teachers? From my children, they're my teachers. And I learn every single day something. So if you really listen and you really pay attention, you're always going to learn something.
Yes. And what would you like for your legacy to be in the entertainment industry? What would you like to be most known and remembered for?
Well, this movie is pretty important. This one, right? I think this is a great story. I mean, my God, this is, it's a great story. It's pretty extraordinary. Just a storyteller, a true storyteller. I want to keep it simple.
I love that because that's always been my passion. I always kept trying to figure out we're not narrowing it down. What is the passion I have? And maybe it's this, maybe it's that. But when you really get down to it, it's storytelling. It's hearing the stories or me telling the stories. It's that to me is what boils down to me. I love the story.
I tell my students it's the oldest profession around the campfire. I know people think it's that other profession, but it's not. It's storytelling. That's the oldest profession. A good story. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So as we come to a close here, what advice would you give someone who wants to do what you do?
I would say study, have meaningful conversations, be patient. Don't feel that it has to be, fast food, I need to get it now. It's great to hang out, which was ultimately that Chris Rock, advice and what he grew up with is that his parents gave him the freedom to figure it out. Like, just be patient, figure it out. Don't feel like you have to get on the treadmill. That's, I think, what was great. I mean, there were not a lot of things that were great about COVID, obviously, but one of the things that was great is that it made people all over the world, because we were all in it together. It was global. Think about your life and redefine your life and think about, what do I really want, and really reflect, because we had the time to do that. You didn't have the thing of go here, go there, do this, do that. You could just stop everything and really think, am I doing what I want with my life? Am I contributing what I need to contribute? And so, I would say without COVID, because we're back now and people are back on the treadmill and we are, the quick adrenaline of life, never lose the sight of taking the time to stop and to breathe and to reflect and to think about how you want to create it for yourself.
Yes.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Because, talking about what COVID did of making people think about what they really wanted to do, that also helped people to decide if they really wanted to be an actor or be a musician. Because a lot of people left the industry, not because they didn't think it was coming back, but because deep down they realized, you know what, this is not what I wanted to do. And and other people, it made them realize that is what they wanted to do. So
when they took
so it
time
really
to
put a lot of
reevaluate.
perspective in people's lives. I think that in 2020, that just was a game changer for a lot of people. If, like you said, they took the time to sit down and breathe.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
So as we close out, tell everybody how they can find you.
Oh, all right. I'm always bad with that. But I mean, you can look up Michelle Danner Acting Studio, the Michelle Danner Acting Conservatory, Instagram, Michelle Danner LA, I think. But you can find me. If you just plug it in, you will find.
Love that.
Awesome.
And we really enjoyed having you on the show today.
We
We look forward to having you back down the road.
Thank you very much. Good luck with you and your beautiful children. Thank you.
We appreciate it.
We
You
appreciate that. Have a good day.
too. Bye.